In the quiet, ancient town of Takamatsu, nestled in the Kagawa prefecture of Japan, there lies a small, forgotten temple known as Kanenji. The temple, with its moss-covered stones and overgrown pathways, has been a site of local legends for generations. Its most chilling tale is that of the Yurei, a restless spirit that is said to haunt the area, seeking vengeance for a wrong done long ago. It was a crisp autumn evening when my friends and I decided to explore Kanenji. We had heard whispers of the Yurei from the locals, tales of a ghostly figure seen drifting through the fog, her mournful wails echoing through the ancient trees. With our curiosity piqued and Halloween around the corner, we figured it was the perfect time to delve into this eerie legend. The drive to Takamatsu was peaceful, the countryside bathed in the warm glow of the setting sun. As we arrived in town, we could see the temple's silhouette against the horizon, its traditional pagoda standing tall amidst a canopy of trees. The air was crisp and cool, carrying with it the scent of autumn leaves and a hint of something far less inviting. We parked our car in a small, gravel lot near the temple entrance. The path leading to Kanenji was flanked by old lanterns, their light flickering faintly as dusk settled in. We approached the temple, the crunch of leaves underfoot and the distant hoot of an owl our only companions. The temple's main hall, with its weathered wooden pillars and cracked tile roof, looked like something out of a storybook. We stepped inside, where the air was musty and heavy with the scent of incense. Dust motes danced in the weak light filtering through the cracked windows. The interior was a maze of darkened rooms and ancient relics, each telling a story of a bygone era. Our plan was to spend the night in the temple, hoping to experience a brush with the supernatural. We set up our gear, flashlights, a digital recorder, and some snacks inside one of the larger rooms. As we settled in, we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. The silence was thick and oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustle of wind outside. After a few hours of exploring and recording, we decided to take a break. That's when we started to hear it, a soft, mournful wail coming from the direction of the temple's garden. The sound was almost like a gentle breeze, but with an undercurrent of sorrow that sent shivers down my spine. We decided to investigate. The garden was overgrown, the once pristine stone paths now obscured by wild grass and creeping vines. As we made our way through the foliage, the wailing grew louder, more insistent. It was as though the sound was guiding us towards something or someone. We reached a small, overgrown cemetery at the back of the garden. The tombstones were old and weathered, barely legible. Among them stood a single, larger stone slab, partially covered in moss. The wailing seemed to be coming from this spot, and as we approached, we noticed a faint, shimmering figure hovering above the slab. The figure was that of a woman, her traditional kimono tattered and stained. Her hair hung loose, flowing around her like a dark cloud. Her face was a mask of sorrow and anger, her eyes hollow and haunted. We stood frozen, our breaths catching in our throats as the ghostly figure floated closer. "Is this the Yurei?" whispered Akira, one of my friends, his voice trembling. I nodded, unable to tear my eyes away from the apparition. According to local lore, the Yurei was a spirit of a woman who had been wronged in life, betrayed by someone she trusted. Her restless spirit was doomed to wander, seeking retribution for her suffering. The Yurei let out a mournful cry, and the temperature around us dropped dramatically. The cold was biting, seeping through our clothing and numbing our limbs. I could see my breath misting in the air, and the ground beneath us seemed to grow colder with each passing moment. As the spirit drifted closer, we could make out fragments of her story, whispered in a voice that seemed to echo from another world. She spoke of betrayal and loss, of a promise broken by someone she loved. Her voice was a haunting melody of grief and anger, a lament for the life that had been stolen from her. We listened in stunned silence, the weight of her sorrow pressing down on us. The Yurei's wails grew louder, and her form began to waver, as if she were struggling against some unseen force. It was clear that she was trapped between worlds, her spirit unable to find peace. Feeling a deep sense of empathy, we decided to try and help. We remembered the traditional ways of appeasing restless spirits, and with trembling hands, we set up a small altar using the offerings we had brought. We placed incense, fruit, and a bowl of water on the ground, hoping to provide some comfort to the tormented spirit. As we lit the incense and placed the offerings, the Yurei's wailing began to subside. Her figure seemed to become less transparent, and the oppressive cold in the air lifted slightly. It was as though our efforts had given her some measure of solace. The spirit's gaze softened, and she slowly began to drift away, her form fading into the mist that had begun to settle over the garden. The air grew warmer, and the oppressive weight of her presence lifted. We watched in silence as she disappeared, leaving behind a sense of calm that was almost palpable. When we returned to the temple, we were exhausted but relieved. The experience had been both terrifying and deeply moving, and it had given us a new perspective on the legends of the Yurei. We spent the rest of the night in quiet reflection, the silence of the temple now peaceful rather than foreboding. As dawn broke and we prepared to leave, we couldn't help but feel that we had made a difference. The Yurei's story was one of sorrow and betrayal, but we hoped that, in some small way, we had helped her find a measure of peace. The Kanenji Temple, with its ancient stones and timeless legends, would forever be a reminder of the delicate balance between the living and the dead, and the powerful emotions that can bind spirits to the world of the living. We left Takamatsu with a newfound respect for the legends and the unseen forces that linger in the shadows. The tale of the Yurei was no longer just a story, it was a vivid, haunting reminder of the spirits that walk among us, seeking solace and understanding in a world that often overlooks their pain.